Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in to a special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. Joining me tonight for this special edition, because it is a very, very special occasion, one half of the dynamic duo of Drafts and Dialogue, bringing you that pop culture knowledge you need to know each and every single week. It is Lauren from Hops Geeks News. Lauren, what's going on?
Not much. I'm very excited and a little bit nervous, not going to lie. It's New York Comic Con is bigger than any con I've ever done.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Oh, yeah. And
Exactly.
That being said, too, it's such a big episode because we are going to be talking about New York Comic Con. We had to bring in the head honcho of Nerd Initiative himself, the president, the GEO, the
don't even know what that means.
Yes.
The GEO.
Whatever we could define him as, it is the one and only Michael Rothman. Mike, thank you so much for coming on and joining us tonight.
Resident David Schwimmer lookalike, the usual stuff.
Yes, I would say you have an intro as almost as long as I do for as Rich would say on Wrestling Night Live. But we want to bring everybody the heavy hitters tonight because obviously it is a big event going on in pop culture, and that is New York Comic Con taking place October 17th through the 20th at the Javits Center in New York City. And we are going to be breaking down what you need to know going into the biggest event of pop culture for 2024. All the information you're going to hear about is coming from New York Comic Con's webpage, which will be throwing up the QR code in just a little bit. But before we get started, Lauren, like you alluded to, this is your first time going to New York Comic Con. Talk about the vibes. Talk about what you're thinking going into this.
Well, I've done MegaCon multiple times, and I've done Salt Lake City, but that's pretty much it. But I mean, MegaCon's a pretty big one, so is Salt Lake. But when I got this one for the first time, I was very excited. And then all the emails started coming in, and I looked at the schedule, and I was like, there's so many things at the same time. So it's one of those you really just have to, you can't do it all. So you just got to pick that schedule, pick what you want to do, pick what you want to focus on. And I'm excited. I've been to New York many times, but I'm very, the excitement outweighs the nervousness. But there are some things that I feel like I will be a little overwhelmed with. But again, I'm more excited.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about. Michael, you've gone so many times. I mean, what is your take going into this year just from what we're seeing on paper so far?
Well, we were talking before we went live. I think, last year, obviously with the strike and the writer's strike and the shows, I think shows and movies are coming back with a vengeance. That's the word I was looking for earlier. So many big shows and big movies. And so that's the vibe this year. It feels like they really jam-packed the 4 days. And so I think that's really going to that'll be interesting. And then it's just, for Lauren's sake, me and Ken have been going, I think probably over a decade. It is, I think per capita, the biggest convention as far as like amount of people. Obviously it doesn't have the buzz of San Diego all the time, but it's pretty close, and it's overwhelming. I'll wrap it up with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a one-of-a-kind experience. If you've never gone before, it is literally overwhelming at first, but it's just such a unique vibe and energy as you go because you think New York, and nobody brings to like the Big Apple. And when you have just all the amazing cosplay going on, every creator is there, and they're so excited to see you just as much as you are to see them. It really just elevates your fandom that much more. And then you wind up just making so many connections, having so many memories. That is why it is such an event. And it has grown to equal out to San Diego, if not surpass it, in my opinion, just with what you have going on. And it is just such a unique time and fun experience. Like I say, I can't recommend it enough. If you can go, definitely go. If you can't, hopefully this episode will get you motivated to get some tickets. If there are some still available, I believe for Thursday as we're going to record, but if not next year, you definitely want to do that. So that being said, we're going to kick off our coverage, breaking down the panels you need to know about. And the first one on my list is one that is definitely taken pop culture by storm a little bit. And I guess my question to the chat is, who else here is watching The Penguin?
Yes.
So good.
Yeah. This show has been such a delightful spin-off of the Matt Reeves universe, and they're kicking it off. And this blows my mind at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning. Now, Michael, you would know this a little better than Lauren because you've gone so many years. Have you ever remembered them kicking off New York Comic Con with a panel this big that early?
Absolutely not. I mean, we were. I love breaking the fourth wall. We were talking about it before too. I want to say about 10 years ago, Thursdays used to start at like 1 or 2 o'clock. Like Thursday was kind of the preview day. Wasn't really the full on, jam-packed, thing that they have now. So I can't remember. I remember going to pick up my badges on Thursday. I wouldn't even go on Thursday. I would go walk around. It was like, a couple thousand
a shopping
people.
day.
Yeah. And so now it's like, it's going to start fast and furious. It's going to be, I mean, I have no words for that. One of the most anticipated panels, like kicking off the morning I'm speechless.
No, I mean, that's my reaction to watching it too, because going off the press release from New York Comic Con, the cast and creatives for the mid-season discussion are going to be there. We're going to have an extended peek of an episode 5, which coming off the heels of last Sunday's episode, which I know Janelle from our Nerd Initiative team wrote a fantastic review about, and it might be one of the best episodes of television all year. They have a lot of buzz coming in, and you're going to have some of the cast there. Colin Farrell, who plays the Penguin, is going to be there. Kristen Milanti, who does Sophia Falcone, Renzi Felice, who's Victor on the show. And they have so many of the cast coming in, and they're really going to be elevating this to just such a fever pitch level. And like I say, this is the first day. And then equally going against it, I mean, I was shocked seeing this one come up next. And this is Marvel's biggest panel. Marvel Comics' next big thing is running the exact same time. I mean, Lauren is...
I thought you were going to say shrinking. This is insane.
No. Well, we're getting into that one in just a second. But to think
it's
about
on
this,
and on.
Yeah, like this is all going on at the first hour. The con is like kicking off for panels. I mean, Lauren, you've been checking out a lot of the Marvel books this year. I mean, what has been your take from Marvel in 2024?
Oh, I have absolutely loved the Marvel books this year. And I'm sure part of that is because I'm biased towards Wolverine, because it's like every week there's Wolverine Deep Cut, Wolverine, Knights of Madripoor, Wolverine Venom War now we got going on. It's just been so much fun. And I love that more people are getting into comics because, you could say it's like a sellout because they're marketing some of these, like Deadpool and Wolverine did great. So now we're going to come out with Deadpool and Wolverine comic, but that's how I got into comics. It's a fantastic way to get people into comics. They had the whole Blood Hunt series going on this summer. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I'm bummed I'm going to miss that one, but I am like landing at 9:30 and I'm going to be hauling butt to the convention center as fast as I can and checking my bag there. But I wish I could be 3 places at once because I'd really love to do all 3 of those panels.
Yeah, like this panel is just absolutely wild. CB Sobalski is going to be there. Tom Brevoort, who's been doing an amazing job editing, I mean, for years now, and obviously he's now in the X-Men line. Agent M is going to be there as well. Ryan North is announced as a guest, who's been absolutely crushing it on Fantastic Four. And it sounds like they're going to be hinting at a lot about the First Family going on too, especially with the X-Men line blowing up, like Lauren was alluding to. If anybody hasn't checked out the From the Ashes restart of the Krakoan era, it has been some of the best comics. And arguably one of the best superhero books out right now is Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone and David Marquez. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And this is really the panel that sets the tone for the next 6 months to a year. I remember being at it last year, and they announced Blood Hunt as we were walking out the door. Also at that event, we were talking Avengers Twilight, the Fall of Krakoa, and really hyping that up. And I mean, that's like, if you're a Marvel fan, you have to be in attendance for this. And like, that's the biggest problem I have is you got the Penguin, you've got Marvel's next big thing, and then Lauren was alluding to another panel here, also at 11.
What is going on? This is insane.
They're killing us, man. I know. I shouldn't have booked my flight for Thursday morning. What was I thinking?
But it's like this all weekend. It's not just Thursday. It's there's so many things happening. It's impossible to, like Lauren said, you can't be at 3 places at once.
Oh, I know. Like, this is just for kicking the event off. It's amazing, but you're like, where do you go? Because you have 3 amazing panels going on too. especially Apple TV Plus's acclaimed series Shrinking is there. And I mean, they're bringing out the producers. They're bringing out Jason Segel is announced to be there. Christina Miller, Jessica Williams, and just a lot of the cast is going to be there talking about this fantastic series. And this is where it's tough to be a fan, because you literally can't be everywhere at once. So you have to make a choice. I mean, and Lauren, you know a little bit about the series. Like, how excited are you about this show?
Oh, this show is phenomenal. So Matt actually got me hooked onto it because I was watching Ted Lasso on Apple. He's like, "Oh, just check out this show." As soon as he said Harrison, I'm loving grumpy old man Harrison Ford. He's phenomenal. And the show is not what you think it is. Like, it's not just about therapists. It's, Jason Segel lost his wife unexpectedly. He's now raising his daughter by himself. He has a small practice with Harrison Ford and somebody else where they're all therapists, but he's throwing the book out the window, giving them terrible advice. He himself is coping not very well. And it's hilarious, but it's also very heartfelt. And Matt actually just got screeners for the first few episodes of season 2, and I believe did a review up on Nerd Initiative. So I'm very excited. This is actually coming back the day this season 2 starts, the day of the panel.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited. I'm loving that the show is getting so much love because I want it to continue. It is, anybody who hasn't given it a chance. I mean, an Apple TV is one of the cheapest streaming services out there. Like, just even if you wait to just binge it, watch the show. It's fantastic.
You get a new iPhone, I think you can get it free for 6 months or something, right?
Oh, even better. There you go.
There's something like that. And then there's some news that was breaking about them merging with Amazon Prime about having the channel on there. Yeah, it was something that came out early late last week, but I've been too tied up with New York Comic Con stuff, to be honest. So anybody in the chat wants to throw something in there. But yeah,
something to look out for too, news wise, from that panel. You mentioned Ted Lasso, which is one of the best shows of the past,
oh my God,
100 years. Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent, is the executive producer for Shrinking, and he will be on that panel. And I guarantee, with the buzz that Ted Lasso might be coming back, might be minus Sudeikis or whatever, someone's going to ask that, and I wonder if he'll spill something. Probably can't, but you never know with these things. He might say something like, "Yeah, we're coming back," or something. I don't know, but
I mean, they set it up for spinoffs, so I feel like they have to, at a minimum, do a spinoff.
Yeah,
something.
I mean,
that's a place to announce it.
And that's the one thing too about these panels is you can go into something and get complete surprise. I remember a couple of years ago they were doing the panel for Hellboy, and then they decided to piggyback a little movie called Free Guy, and out comes Ryan Reynolds out of nowhere.
Oh my gosh, people must have lost their minds.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. They announced it 5 minutes before the panel went on. Or Ryan Reynolds just crashed. So you never know what you're going to see. And then obviously with the Ted Lasso hype coming around there, I wouldn't doubt it at all that we have something big coming out of that. And especially first day of New York Comic Con, you want to make a big splash. I know another network that is really pushing to make a big splash. And I know, Lauren, you know a little bit about this. AMC Networks and Rice, the Mayfair Witches.
Yes. So Tom was actually going to cover this and wasn't able to, so I took it over. So there's only one season out right now. They're going to be at the convention. They're going to show the first episode of the second season. I have not finished the series. I will have it finished by Thursday, but I got hooked pretty quick. It's very dark. It's very interesting. It takes place in New Orleans. The cast is like one of those where everybody who pops up, you're like, I know them from something. And I liked them in that. And I can't figure out where I know them from. It's one of those shows you're going to want to be pulling up IMDb, but it's really good. It goes back and forth from like the 1600s witches to present day. And there's stuff going on. I'm not 100% sure what's going on yet. I don't know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are yet. I think everybody's a little bad and a little good. But it's very dark. It's a lot of fun. I hadn't even heard of it, so I'm glad Tom recommended it to me. It is on Netflix now, but I just bought AMC Plus too because the Daryl show's back. But it's really good. Thank you, Tom. I'm enjoying it, and what a perfect time to get into it in October.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, are you familiar with the franchise?
I have not checked it out yet, but I am a fan, and it feels very Agatha-esque. So I feel like witches are hot right now. So why not jump on that train?
They're so hot.
No, I mean, it's everywhere, and especially coming off the hype league you alluded to with Agatha all along, it's a perfect time to bring it back in the Halloween season. Next up, though, for me, and this is a monster one, you might even say it's a massive one, Image Comics presents Enter the Massiverse. So this is dropping 2 p.m. on Thursday, and the issues you see right there on the screen are from Radiant Black 30 and 30.5. They are actually going to be the lead reviews on Nerd Initiative's new Comic Book Day coverage tomorrow as we record. And This is wrapping up the Catalyst War, and the Massiverse team is pulling out all the stops for this panel. You're having Kyle Higgins come through, Marcelo Costa, Rod Reese, Matt Groom, Brian Buccellato, Geraldo Borges, and Ryan Parrott are going to be there breaking down everything going on with Radiant Black. No one, which, I mean, there's a lot of buzz going on with what's happening now after the series is wrapped. Cowl 1964. The Massiverse, if anybody's looking for a great superhero universe to get into, I personally recommend it. I think that what the team does over there is really modernizes the concepts of superheroes, but they're very in touch with like social media and doing events like QR codes. And in fact, this would be something that'll probably blow everybody's minds here if you're not familiar. I'll even ask this to Michael. Would you ever, if you were a writer, ever put your main character on the line for a vote?
Oh, yeah, I don't have the stones for that, but hats off to the Massiverse for going that route. But yeah, I know myself, I could not do it, but that is impressive that they're able to do that.
Yeah. Lauren, how about you?
I have no idea. I can't even, like, the stories that people come up with, the ideas they do, and the things that they're willing to put their characters through. What I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah,
I can't.
What they decided to do is issue 24. They decided to do a vote about who would be Radiant Black, Marshall or Nathan. And they have done this fantastic story of the Catalyst War, splitting it up and taken both characters and done some creativity with it. No spoilers, but we get an answer at the end of the Catalyst War, and this has been all decided by the fan vote. So,
But then you have to have an idea of which way it's
oh
going to
yeah,
go either way.
I fully bank Kyle will break it down, but this is something that they like. I would say this is big for us, but this is something that they do on almost on the regular. Like they take big risks like this with all their major characters
Mhm.
and really get the fans involved. And like I say, in this day and age, the closest thing that I can remember doing anything like this was the Michael will remember this.
Pick
What's
your
that?
adventure. Pick your
No,
adventure
well, they've
books.
done one of those actually in Rogue Squad. They actually did one,
Oh.
which was wild. But I was going to say, Michael, this is like the Jason Todd 1-800 number.
Yes, yes. I was trying to. It was in the tip. I was thinking, is like Mary Jane? Is it Gwen Stacy? Is it something else? It was Jason Todd. Yes.
Yeah, where they decided to put DC decided in the 80s put a 800 number on the line, and you decided if Jason Todd lived or died. Well, we all know what happened there, but
Yeah.
this is the closest to that, which to bring it back in this manner, let alone with your franchise character. Like, kudos to everybody at Black Market Narrative doing fantastic stuff. So that panel is one to absolutely check out and make sure you're in attendance for. Another one, which is going to take it, speaking of Batman and taking a different version. I'll start with you, Lauren. Are you familiar with Batman Ninja?
I'm not familiar with Batman Ninja, but I am excited to see Christian Ward because I can't get enough of his Batman
Well, he's
art.
not on this one because no.
Oh,
Well,
I thought
he's
he
on a
was.
different Batman book that you're thinking. This is actually a Batman anime.
Oh yeah, he's on City of Madness, but I know he's going to be on the panel.
Yes, he's going to be on the Gotham City panel. But this is actually a Batman anime that is a sequel to one they did a couple years ago, which if you want to talk about blending the worlds of comics and anime, and especially Batman, the Batman mythos, and putting it into a time period in feudal Japan, like they did a phenomenal job with this. This is actually the sequel to it going on. So they're going to be unveiling that Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League, and then Batman Azteca Choco de Imperius. So that is going to be dropping.
Who did that cover?
Yeah, like that's just the artwork for it. And like I say, it's a sequel to the 2018 film. And Aztec Batman Clash of Empires is a translation. So they're going to be unveiling both films to some certain degree and talking to the teams behind it. And this is like ties into almost if you read the Elseworld series, like that's kind of the vibe I get from it. And I love Batman Ninja. I own a copy, and I think it was just phenomenal to see. So this is one if you really want to see different takes on Batman and something just completely new and refreshing. Like this is going to be something to go attend easily. And then Lauren, you alluded to the Batman Gotham City panel. So I'll start with you, actually, Lauren. So you're talking a little bit about Christian Ward and City of Madness. Now, obviously, he's taken over Two-Face. What's your reaction for that?
Oh, I can't wait. I love his story. His City of Madness story was only 3 issues. It was short, but it was short and sweet. And his art is just phenomenal. And then he's doing Spectrograph as well. And we got the, opportunity to interview him. And I was like, okay, I know you have actual artists as inspiration, not just comic book artists. Not that comic book artists aren't artists, because they absolutely 100% are. But this guy is like, every single page is like, you want to frame it like phenomenal. It's like watercolors, and just he takes the art to a new level. And I can't wait to see what he does next, because I'm not big on DC. I definitely lean towards Marvel. So it's only in the past probably year and a half that I've actually started reading certain DC comics, and that was one of them. So
Michael, are you a big Batman fan?
Oh, huge. He's number 2 behind Spider-Man, at least for me. I mean, I sound about as cliche as can be, being like, oh yeah, he's number 2 behind Spider-Man. So I such a risk there.
No one's favorite's Wolverine.
He's up there. I think he's up there. I think Ken's on this train with me, but I used to be my Punisher was my number 1 guy in the 90s and 2000s growing up. So, but I was just trying to save my rep with the whole Batman Spider-Man thing. But
no, you definitely did. I mean, like I said, Punisher, Ghost Rider. I mean, that was all my stuff in the early 90s too. So I'm right there with you.
But yeah, I think what they're doing with Batman is amazing. I mean, they're doing the same thing with Spider-Man too. I mean, 2 of the most marketable characters in the world. And so all these different angles, we've talked about absolute Batman till our mouths bleed. I mean, just an amazing book so far. So they're just really giving us different perspectives, and it's kind of amazing. So, and why not?
Oh yeah, no, completely. I mean, the one thing that's cool about this is they do a Gotham City panel pretty much every year at New York Comic Con. This was actually the first panel I ever attended way back when, and this was right at the peak of the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo run. And this is when all the news was getting announced and everything was going down. And like for me, it's always a very special one, because if you're into Batman, and I've told people many of this, I was never a big Batman fan as much as I was until Scott and Greg's run. And to see what they've done now with the line, especially with the all-in movement, which is a perfect time for new readers to jump in to any series, because all of them are having more or less a soft reboot of new stories are starting off. Not saying redoing everything. This is a perfect time to get into it, and then seeing who's coming for this panel. Alex Segura is coming, who's doing the question. Christian Ward, Dan Waters, who's doing Nightwing now. Like I say, they have top-notch creators jumping on each one of these books. And it is awesome to see just the resurgence. And especially if you're a big Batman fan, like you alluded to, with Absolute Batman's crushing it right now. They're going to be having a little different panel for that. But just to be a fan of the Cape Crusader right now with everything going on, like this is a perfect time to get into the books if you haven't done that already. So next up is one that, I mean, this is a book that we've known here at Nerd Initiative for a little while. And I know is making a little bit of buzz because of a certain hip hop artist that's involved with this. But Lauren, let me ask you, have you been checking out anything about Moon Man?
I haven't. I believe Matt has, and I believe he raved about it. But no, I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. There's so much good content and so many hours in the day.
I was going to say, like, this is a book that, I mean, when it came out, made a big splash, and it's still going strong. Like a year, this is a year anniversary on the book, actually, because it was announced last year at New York Comic Con. So they're coming back and doing another panel at 6:15 on Thursday night. Now, we have to just keep this in mind. This is all Thursday. To
scratch the surface.
We're already 23 minutes
so,
in.
I mean, I'll start with you, Michael. Going over Thursday, like, what's your first take now after breaking this down?
Oh, geez. Drink a lot of coffee, I guess. And plan. Like, sure. I think Lauren said it. I think Ken also said it. I think you just have to kind of pick a handful of things. And I liked what they did when they did reservations a few weeks back. And I don't think they've done this before. Correct me if I'm wrong. They didn't let you overlap, and they gave you couldn't reserve 2 panels that were within like 20 minutes of each other. And that's smart, because you ain't getting anywhere in 20 minutes at the Javits Center. So just plan well, and, under promise and over deliver is I guess the saying of the day or of the weekend, and just kind of pick 3 or 4 things you want to do. And if you get to do more, that's great, but it is going to be a madhouse. And so, and there's no off days. It's none.
Yeah. I mean, Lauren, going to first day for you, like, what's your takeaways?
I'm, as like Michael said, all the coffee, because my flight is leaving Orlando at 6:30 in the morning and I'm going straight to the con. So, I've never done speed before, but this might be the time. No, I'm gonna be. I packed like the things I use for like running, like the electrolyte gummies. I've already put those in like my lounge fly, and I'm gonna have lots of coffee going and water, and eat healthy. Don't eat garbage, because that's just gonna
Yeah.
slow you down.
No, it's best
So
just to make sure you plan ahead. Make sure to download the app too for New York Comic Con,
Mhm.
so you can space out, because they give you reminders 30 minutes ahead of time, 15 minutes ahead of time. Just give yourself enough time to get to all these panels wherever you want to go, because you want to make sure you're experiencing the best of the fandoms as you can. And that was just Thursday. We have to get into Friday. So, Lauren, I'm going to start with you, because this is one that we were definitely talking about starting at noon or 12:30 on Friday. This is one that I know jumped out to both of us. Enter the Slaughterverse: The Legacy of Something Is Killing the Children. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
yes, I'm very excited for this one. Matt got me hooked on this one. This is a horror comic that is very dark, but it's also just gorgeous, the kind of art that it has. They're actually working on a Netflix series for it, and I'm so curious as to how they're going to be able to pull it off, because some of the scenes in the comic
Mhm.
are very dark. When your book's called Something Is Killing the Children, and now you have the House of Slaughter book that goes hand in hand with it, that's going to the past and the future, and you're learning more about this world. But I think what I really love about these books is these hunters of monsters are very self-righteous and act like they're doing so good, when they almost seem more evil than the monsters they're fighting. So it's very interesting to learn all this backstory and this history. So I'm very excited for this panel, because I got into this series maybe 6 months ago, and I've just been reading the trades. And yeah, I fell in love with it pretty quick. Horror comics were never on my
Mhm.
radar at all, and I've been reading more and more of them, and they're really good.
Michael, are you a fan of Something That's Killing the Children?
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't read all the way through, but now we know how to pronounce his name. By the way, thank you, Scott Snyder.
Yes.
James Tynion. I used to say Tinian, but I guess I was wrong the entire
I
time.
know.
But I mean, writing has never been better for whether it's indies or mainstream. And you think of someone like Tynion, and I think that Scott Snyder put it the best when he talked about his early days. Prose, like it's just elevated to a different level, and these guys are brilliant and geniuses. And so, yeah, it's just all amazing work.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing about this too, and something, if anybody hasn't checked this series out yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I know they're jumping back in with an issue 0 after they've done this very cool like year 1 almost with Erica Slaughter, the lead character, but with James Tynion and Werther Del Edera leading the pack there, and with some of the other creators going on. This is going to be one that if you want to get in this universe, this is a perfect time to do it. And like Lauren alluded to, there is the Netflix show coming out. We probably will hear a little bit more about that at this panel, I would imagine, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Next up is, Lauren mentioned about horror books and putting the horror and crime into comics. Now, this is definitely a cool panel that's going on with some of the creators that you know from Comixology Originals. So if you've been checking out that line, they do some fantastic work, some really, really top level stuff. And you're going to see creators like Michael Gatiss there, Tula Lotay, who has a book called Groupies that's coming out that's got a lot of buzz behind it. Michael Conrad's going to be there, and really kind of breaking down what goes into crime and horror comics. I mean, Michael, I'll start with you. Are you really big into the horror or crime aspect of comics?
Ooh, that's a good call. I probably would gear towards crime, the Sin City, the classic Batman detective kind of, even pre-code horror, some of those crime books. I mean, there's a lot of, I've gotten a little into pre-code horror, and I know I'm sounding like an oxymoron by saying it's called pre-code horror, but there was a lot of detective and crime stuff before. That's where Batman came from. So it's been interesting, but horror is really, our friend Alan Dunford kind of got me into horror with like Grandma Chainsaw and, Pocus Hocus and things like that. And so, yeah, I am starting to get into it more. I'm kind of like Lauren, like I'm a novice at this point, but the writing and the art is so good these days. It's not the way it was when we were kids, and you're just like throwing it together in these crazy stories. So it's riveting. It's kind of hard to like, once you finish an issue, you want the next one like immediately. It's just,
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lauren, how about you?
I honestly don't know. If it had been a year ago, I would have said detective for sure. But I've slowly gotten more and more into horror because, well, Matt made me get into it. And now my middle kid's like getting into it. And I'm like, and now that I've watched all 15 seasons of Supernatural multiple times, I know how to kill everything. So it doesn't give me nightmares anymore. But I don't know. I think it might be a little bit of 50-50. But when you have a good crime detective story and they get you at the end, I mean, that's always phenomenal, but it's always the best of those are slow burns. So I almost feel like it's kind of hard to compare a little. But I mean, a lot of horror, though, like really good horror, combines the two.
Yeah, and I think you get a lot of that from this line too. Like they do some great stuff. I know the book we showed up there beneath, that is one that definitely everybody should really go check out. And it's really something that you're going to see a lot more throughout this weekend too, because that was one element that I saw was in a lot of panels and even leads into the next one we're going to be talking about, because IDW has a great one called The Next 25 Fears. And this is a book that actually Matt has reviewed for Nerd Initiative. I know Tom has a video review coming out for it. The Exorcism at 1600 pen. So this is one that definitely has got a lot of people's eyes. And especially if you want to get into horror, IDW does some fantastic work, and they're just talking about their storytelling for the next 25 years. And especially they had some of the biggest series of the year coming out too. I mean, obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not a horror book, but one that definitely was and surprised a lot of fans is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. So have either of you read that?
I have not.
I haven't.
Though I'd like to see a TMNT horror version if they want,
Oh.
do another Last Ronin kind of spin off and make it horror, and instead like they start killing people or something.
Excuse me. That would be
Yeah, that would
cool.
be wild to see. I mean, technically, the Last Ronin is very dark, so I mean that could kind of teeter with that. But I highly recommend Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Like that is one fantastic book. I can't recommend that enough. It's definitely one. I know when I gave it to Tom from to check out, he definitely had a instant reaction to it, and it was all in capitals. Oh my God, what did you give me? It's a 10, but what did you give me? Like that was the instant reaction. I wish I still had that clip saved, but that's just something you're going to see here a lot. You'll hear a lot more about horror as we go on through the different panels going on. But another one that really stood out to me, and this is one that I know the name might sound familiar if you're a Walking Dead fan from the musical soundtrack. I know, Lauren, you're very familiar with Bear McCready.
If it's in Walking Dead, then I've probably listened to it. I'm one of those people that I'll be like, oh, I know that song.
Yes.
No clue who sings it.
I mean, he's done so many different things. Walking Dead, Lord of the Rings. Like he's been a composer that does a lot of cool things. And this is actually, he's going to be doing a panel about musical world building. And he did a book that you're seeing featured up here with Matt Groom. That's The Singularity, which is a fantastic book that honestly, if you haven't checked it out, it's like almost like a concept album in a comic, in my opinion. Like it is just one of those books you read and you're just like, whoa. It's just something that stands out. So they're gonna be breaking that down a little bit and just kind of talking about like music and how that kind of goes into comics in this aspect too a little bit. And this is one, like I said, if you really want to find out about like how this kind of connection happens, and especially from Bear, who's, I mean, his work definitely when you hear it, like this is gonna be one you definitely don't want to miss.
Those end up being the best panels too. I mean, what was it? It was the Force of Sound. It was a documentary that Clayton Sandell did on ILM, Industrial Light and Magic for Star Wars, and that, I mean, people still talk about that one where like they went behind the scenes of the sounds of the droids, and they, like those end up being shockers of a panel where people come out and being like they're just floored with like how these things are put together and brought. And so someone of his caliber, that's a sleeper pick of someone, maybe like a panel of the weekend or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like this is one that definitely, if you have the chance to get to, you want to go get to, especially if Matt Groom is there, just go support the heck out of him. He's a fantastic writer and he's got a lot of books getting ready to drop in 2025. So I'm super excited about that. Now, next up on my list, I know that Derek from Paperweight Entertainment is not here, but I know that this is something very near and dear to him and the gaming team, because at Comic-Con, Marvel Multiverse role-playing game live featuring the Glass Cannon Network. So, Michael, I'll start with you. Are you into D&D-esque RPGs?
I was as a kid, and I actually bought this book. It must have been 2 years ago, but I never played, as many things I do in life, start and then stop. But I'm intrigued. What was the game that was really popular a year or two ago? It was a Marvel Flip. I'm going to butcher it.
Snap.
Snap. I played that a little bit. So I need to give it a shot. So I'm actually interested in that. That's kind of exciting and different. And it's on my list of sure Lauren's we all have lists of like comics and media and stuff. That's on my list of things to dabble in before I get obsessed.
Yeah. Lauren, how about you? Are you into any kind of tabletop RPG stuff?
No, I've never played any role-playing stuff.
No, that's fair.
So my oldest did like D&D virtual, I remember, during COVID with some friends, but I've just never gotten into it. All my knowledge comes from Stranger Things.
Well, that's a great place to get it because they do pay a fairly good homage to it, in my opinion. But this is going to be one that if you want to get into it, and I know there's a lot of like gaming is a big thing, and I know especially when Derek gets the team rolling on that, no pun intended, it's going to be a fun thing to see here on Nerd Initiative. So this is going to be one, especially if you're into the Marvel side of things. Like I remember playing the game way back when, the original version, and it was always something very fun for me. So I'm very interested to see how the new version plays out too. And they, like I say, they just have so much diversity stuff going on too here. At 3:45, Charlemagne the God presents the Illuminati, Hip Hop and Comics Collide. So he has a book that's coming out from AWA Studios. So this is something I thought was very
That's
cool.
where Axel Alonso comes in.
Yep. So, according to the press release, join hip-hop legend Charlemagne the God as he presents Illuminati, the story written by acclaimed writer Brian Edward Hill that tackles the head-on enduring urban legend of the Black Illuminati. The panel includes the comic legend and Illuminati artist Dennis Cowan and AWA Chief Creative Officer Alex Alonso for a conversation moderated by music executive and journalist Rob Markham around AWA's graphic novel blending hip-hop and comics like no other. So for this, I think it's just something very cool. And especially you see a lot of the hip hop influence in the comics and just like to see this get done. Like this could be on a big scale. I'm all in for it. Like I think this is gonna be something very, very cool to see. And it goes to show just about how many different styles you can see coming into comics. I mean, we know there's anime that's in there. We always see like the music side of things come in, especially now the hip hop. I always think that that's something cool to see in comics. Just that it's not just traditional superheroes and like what we kind of talked upon. Is just outside thinking, getting the influence in from the world around us and really presenting those stories and really driving that home to the audience. Like, I think that's one of the best things about comics, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I think it's come full circle too, because when they did the Comics Code Authority, a lot of comics stopped getting created, and then comics were just getting geared towards boys, and whereas comics used to cover everything. So I feel like it's like Prohibition. We're still slowly recovering from it, even though it was decades and decades, if almost not a century ago. And so I think it's really cool that that's all coming back around, and it exposes comics to a wider variety of people, because I had never heard of that hip hop artist, and I asked my husband, who is into that kind of music, and he's like, yeah, I know who that is. Of course I know who that is. You don't know who that is? And I'm like, well, he's got a comic book.
No,
So, and he's somebody who's not into comics, but he's very familiar with that artist.
And he's always on the Breakfast Club for Power 105 in New York City. And
that's how I think of Charlemagne the God. Yeah. It's kind of it's funny when they dabble in both. I mean, Queen Latifah had a show for a while. Like when they go from being an artist to like whether it's media or Kid Cudi's like a quadruple threat as far as like acting, writing, so it's interesting. It's great to see that kind of stuff, and it's not as siloed as it used to be, where like you're pigeoned into, okay, you're an artist and you're just not, that's it.
Yeah. And it's just something for every fan to come out to. Like I say, when you go to Comic-Con, especially New York, there's literally something for everybody there. And you can definitely find your fandoms and definitely what you connect to. And also going into a panel like this, if you don't know a lot about it, sometimes it's great to take a gamble and just go in and learn about something. And you never know, you might become a full-fledged fan is what they're doing. And then it spirals on there. So, I mean, that's the beauty of going to panels like this.
Fun fact, last time I went to Marvel's Next Big Thing last time was hosted by Axel Alonso, because he was the former editor-in-chief of Marvel back in the mid 2010s.
Oh, wow.
Before CB. So that it's just funny that like I said, I saw him pop up. I was like, what is he doing here? And then I know he's working it's AWA. So that's really great to see.
Yeah. Like it's awesome. Like they do some great stuff too. I know that they've been really pushing a lot more, like almost kind of like bringing in like non-traditional creators. And I know they had the book with Ronda Rousey that just came out or was done on Kickstarter for him too. So like I say, they're making a lot of noise there. And speaking of somebody making a lot of noise, I know, Michael, you alluded to it a little bit earlier. Let us talk about this. 4 p.m. on Friday. This is going to be one of the hardest tickets to get into. The DC Absolute All-In Universe panel. So this one has got a star-studded lineup joining Al Ewing, Dan Mora, Dan Simprier, Hayden Sherman, Jason Aaron, Jeremy Adams, Joshua Williamson, Tom King, Scott Snyder, Ram V. Like, this is a who's who of DC comic creators right now. With everything going on with the Absolute Universe, which just kicked off. Absolute Batman was everywhere last week, kicking off right here on Turn a Page. We don't want to, do a self plug, but we kind of have to with Scott Snyder joining us. But it's really taken a hold, and this is going to be honestly one of the hardest tickets to get into for panels, because they're going to give you so much information going on. And Lauren, I know that you said you hadn't been into DC that much. This is going to literally be the starting point, I think, for you and for a lot of fans to get into. Because
I couldn't get Absolute Batman, but I have it coming. Matt grabbed me one. My comic book shop was out of it. They're like, the only reason we didn't sell it the first day was because we had to close for the hurricane.
That's a reasonable reason why, in my opinion. So, but you, like I say, once you pick that up, you're going to see the different vibe going on with it. I know Absolute Wonder Woman is coming out next week, and then Absolute Superman in November. And then you're going to hear a lot of stuff breaking from here. And Michael, hearing that creator list, I mean, what's the thoughts going through your mind about that?
It's overwhelming again. I think, people love Absolute Batman. I think and hearing Scott talk about it's really what makes it for, right? So another shameless plug for Turn a Page. Check out that interview. It is Scott Snyder is just, he's next level. So I think, if you're a fan of any of these or not, start lining up maybe Thursday to try to get in for it. They're doing a third printing now for Absolute Batman. It's that popular. It is, and Lauren mentioned this earlier. It's hitting a different demographic. This is not for kids. It is for adults. And we won't spoil anything, but what a book so far. And people are just beyond excited.
Yeah. And rightfully so. Like I say, this could not be a better time to get into DC Comics. And like I say, you're going to hear so much noise coming out of this one, like positive buzz, like however you want to define it. This is going to be the panel I think that's going to steal the weekend. And like I say, this is just Friday too. And hearing the competition it does have some very, very stiff competition going on as well, because then we go to the TV side of things. And I know Lauren alluded to this a little earlier, but there is a very big panel that's going down 6 p.m. Friday night. And that is the Walking Dead Universe panel, which is highlighting Dead City and the Daryl Dixon Book of Carol show. So, Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about that?
So Daryl Dixon Book of Carol already came out. There's already a few episodes out on that. And so far, I'm really liking this season. One of the things I felt like they did with Carol was they really didn't have her mourn Sophia. I'm not going to spoil what's going on, but Sophia's already gotten mentioned and we're seeing flashbacks. And I think that's phenomenal, because it's like when you have something going on this long, you don't just want to always be trying to get bigger and better and better. Like, you got to maintain people's interests. And, the story of The Walking Dead was never about the zombies. It was about the people. A lot of my friends stopped watching it, and I loved the comics so much I couldn't give up on the show. And I'm enjoying these spinoffs. I thought the Rick and Michonne show was great, but the way they did that I'm assuming that was a one and done. But Dead City is still going on. I'm enjoying the Negan-Maggie relationship. They are not doing what I thought they were going to do, and I like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how their relationship progresses, whether it's good or bad. And I'm really I always loved Daryl and Carol together, so I'm glad we're getting more of them. Obviously, we now know Carol's in this season because it's called the Book of Carol, but that was a thing at the end of season 1. But Daryl's been in France, and I have friends that, well, how do you get to France? Well, maybe you should watch the show. So it's actually a pretty good show, and there was a couple scenes they're making fun of themselves as fighting nuns, or these nuns in France are fighting these zombies. So it's been good. I'm actually really enjoying the Daryl Dixon show. So I'm looking forward to doing the press for that and going to that panel as well. Because I fell in love with zombies thanks to The Walking Dead, and now I'm watching George Romero movies. So I'm glad it's coming back around, and it's still around.
I mean, I'm still shocked it is, but I mean, just
Yeah.
because after like how the books ended and seeing where the TV show went, and I respect the creativity that they decided to go with because it's a different ending. But the fact that like Fear the Walking Dead was still going pretty strong, and then you had these two spinoffs, and then you just literally have it doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. Like it's literally going to live forever, which is a pun for The Walking Dead. It's just like how do they keep going? I don't know, but when they're putting out good shows like this, I mean, you can still roll in. And obviously, Daryl Dixon, to think about his progression as a character, was supposed to have been killed off the first season, and now he is the literal franchise of this fandom.
Yeah, and it doesn't even exist in the comics, which I think is quite hilarious. I know some of his storylines were, like Abraham wasn't as strong in the show because Daryl took some of his storylines. But yeah, it's fun seeing how that all worked out. He's made a hell of a career out of it.
Absolutely. And then we talk about matchups again, too. I mean, Michael, seeing this one come up on the screen, too. This is going down 7 p.m. So an hour difference to close out Friday night. We have another big matchup, Sony Pictures and Panel Footage. And you know that this movie is going to be featured along with some of the other Sonys that they're going to tease. Obviously, Kraven the Hunter is going to be tagged in there. Karate Kid Legends has been announced according to the press release. What's your thoughts going in about Sony Films right now?
Ooh, I just hope they do. I hope they do Noel justice. I hope they close out, because it's official now. Tom has come out and said he will not be Venom anymore after this movie. So this really is it. He's not gonna. He says, at least for now, but who knows? I mean, we RDJ and Chris Evans,
and after that end credit scene in No Way Home,
he's like, well, I'm not gonna. This is it for me. So we'll see if he's telling the truth or not. Andrew Garfield. So we'll see, but I mean, Sony is so up and down. I really hope this ends up being better than Let There Be Carnage, but we'll see.
Yeah, the fact they tried doing a love story and Let There Be Carnage, I mean, that, in my opinion, not the best choice. But that's for a whole different Patreon-esque episode of Turn a Page we cannot do on here. Otherwise,
one thing I will say, it takes effort to make any film that Woody Harrelson is in bad. You have to really try. The guy is a treasure. So you have to really try to make something bad that he's in. So that's it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I don't hate those movies. They're fun, but I feel like you can't take them seriously at all. Although the Venom horse, I'm kind of excited for that just because they have the Venom T-Rex and Old Man Logan. So I'm like, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, in fact, they even had the QR code filter. You could turn your cat into Venom or something was going around. I'll see if I can find that. I had that on a press release. I'll see if I can find it. Oh, yeah. Like, they're just going to do so many wild things. I mean, it's crazy to think about what's going on. And then definitely, that's where it ends for the con there. But I know there's a couple parties going on too in New York, and I definitely have to give a quick plug because Fandom is celebrating 20 years. And they're going to be doing a very cool party going on with DJ Zandra, who's going to be the musical guest there this year. They always do a great show. And especially if you get a chance to go to one of these events too, always just take full advantage of it because there's a lot of stuff that's very cool for the fans. And this is one that if you get the chance to go, you should try going. But they just do a lot of these different events too throughout Comic-Con. So it definitely kind of stretches out the boundaries from just being at the Javits. I know a couple of years ago, before they put the addition on, we were going to Madison Square Garden, the Hammerstein Ballroom. Like we were going everywhere, like literally through New York City. And then obviously they have different events on through there. So you just got to really keep track. But I mean, Michael, just talking about this to recap Friday, like what's the thoughts?
Well, you missed one thing that I'm excited about that I want to go. So the Lord of the Rings, anything that Brian Cox does, that's another guy. I mean, talk about someone who's aging like a fine wine. I mean, who doesn't get, my Lord, Billions is not Billions. Sorry. Succession is one of the best shows of the past 20 years as well. Like
easily.
And let's not forget William Stryker fame. And, what's the movie I'm thinking of? That's Super Troopers. So Brian Cox is he's amazing. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him in this. So that's another one. But Friday, it's just, what's up for Saturday? I mean, what?
There's nothing left. They did it all Thursday and Friday.
I mean, Lauren, your thoughts on Friday?
I mean, I'm mainly, I feel like, going to be focusing on The Walking Dead, which is interesting because I haven't really focused on that in forever. So I'm excited to do that. But again, it's like I'm just coffee,
Yeah.
coffee, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
No, I mean, I'm starting with The Slaughterhouse and ending with The Walking Dead, and so it's gonna be. It's also those are good spooky ones. So it's a great October like day to
oh
be at a
yeah,
con.
completely. Except the weather there is going to be amazing though. It's going to be 70 degrees during the day and then 40s at night.
Oh, see, I was complaining earlier because it's gonna be cold.
Nighttime will be cold, so definitely when you leave, you want to
That's
make
a
sure.
Floridian for you. That's the one from Florida.
Like, oh, I have to pack pants. Oh.
Well, you definitely want to make sure you pack up some coffee as well too, because Saturday morning is another big showdown, like we alluded to, with a couple of our favorite independent comic companies. With one at 10:30, and that is Ghost Machine 1 year in. So they're going to be having the whole team there. And last year, I know from going in personal attendance, this is where the whole Ghost Machine movement kicked out. They literally stole New York Comic Con. They had such a fantastic presentation at their booth. Could not have a nicer team working there. And all the creators were so excited to talk about their books. And then that energy carried to the panel. So they're kicking things off at 10:30. And I know, Lauren, you got a chance to read Hyde Street. That was the book we just had up there. What's your thoughts about Ghost Machine now going into the new year?
Well, so we actually met almost all of them at MegaCon back in early February. So it was right before a lot of these books were kicking off under Ghost Machine. So it's going to be really fun, I think, to after, I've read Geiger and read Rook Exodus and Hyde Street was phenomenal. It's only one issue in, and I already cannot wait for the next one. And the one they're dropping in December has a Christmas cover, which makes me even more excited. That one I think has actually been my favorite. I told somebody else that and they were shocked, but all of the books are just so good. So I'm really looking forward to this almost being a full year since MegaCon, hearing what else they got going on. When I'm very excited for First Ghost. That's the one I've been the most excited to read. I think that's the one with Brad Meltzer. And I'm just loving the progression of this. I'm loving seeing how much they're loving doing it too. And I think that's when you get the best work out of people, is when you can tell they're genuinely enjoying what they're doing. So I really am very excited just to have an update. But, their panel was 10 o'clock in the morning at MegaCon too. Why do they keep having these early? I think they're really trying to sell their coffee, having these early morning
I don't know
panels.
if they're doing it there, but that would be amazing if we get some coffee, maybe from what they have their on their deal worked out there. And I'm escaping the company they're working with. But yeah, I mean, if that's something they could do, I mean, definitely. But it's just a whole new movement. I mean, Michael, your thoughts on this scene in comics? Like, we're seeing a lot more creator-owned take off, and just really the energy get put back in there. Like, you as a fan, like, what's your reaction seeing all these new books come out like this?
I think it puts like almost like an injection of coffee into this. No, I'm kidding. No, it really is putting a lot of energy into comics. I think I'm going to butcher this word, but like the democratization of like comics and having these like you mentioned, creator owned. And I think it's tough. I mean, we as fans, when we read these things and we watch the movies and even, like the movies and the shows, like we're like, oh, the 43rd movie wasn't as good as the first 42 or whatever. I think the same thing goes for comics, right? With the writers, like, they can get kind of disillusioned after doing the same thing for years and years and years. And so it's nice to kind of have them, just kind of be re-energized by doing, more indie titles, their own creator owned things and doing things like this. So it's really nice to see. And it's exploded in the last couple of years. It is insane to see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like I said, they got a heavyweight bout going on against him because, Michael, you'll know this name, Joe Quesada is coming out with Amazing Comics. So this is going to be a brand new line that everybody's really going to want to make sure they're keeping track of. This is coming out also with Mad Cave Studios. So they are definitely coming with a lot of new stuff. And obviously, Joe Quesada's name, a legend in the industry. Mm-hmm. To see him doing anything new with Amazing, I mean, this is one that's definitely generating a lot of buzz. And really puts that big, like, heavyweight, even though, I mean, obviously, it's not competition there, but it's like that heavyweight bout. Like, where do you go? Like, who you rooting for? Or like, where do you want to go for this panel? Because like, that's where I'm seriously torn about this one.
I will say, for anyone who's not, oh, sorry, Lauren, were you going to say something? Oh, no, I was going to say, for people that don't follow Joe Quesada or read his Substack, He's hilarious.
He's amazing.
I highly recommend, and I can only imagine, like, he plays up the old man card really, really, really strongly. And his captions and his Instagram is riveting. I mean, not just the art, but he's a really funny guy. So I highly recommend this panel if you have the ability or the time or the coffee or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, this is one that I'm seriously torn about, like, missing one or the other. I know Padawan Jay is going to be covering this for our team, but like I say, this is one, like, I'm just sitting there going, like, on the schedule, I'm like, oh, can we just like space it out just for an hour, just like reasons? Like, I want to go to like all these, because then we also have another one right after it too, which has been having a little bit of resurgence, Saturday morning cartoons from screen to comics, because lately we've been seeing a big push about characters like Defenders of the Earth and Flash Gordon and Gotchaman coming out via Mad Cave Studios. So they're doing a panel focusing on this. And like, Lauren, when you're seeing cartoons come into the comic form, like, you as a reviewer, you as a reader, what is your thoughts about seeing all these properties you see on the small screen making that transition now to the page?
As a mother, I think it's fantastic. My son, Tom reviewed a Sonic comic, and my son's big into Sonic right now. And I was like, hey, do you want to go to the comic book store and get a Sonic comic? Yeah. So those are the books he's excited to read. So as a mom, I can't praise it enough. I mean, he was the same thing with My Little Pony. Like, those are the things he wants to read. How to Train Your Dragon, which they need to make more comics, because he keeps out. I can't keep reading the same one over and over, and that's one of his favorites. So I love it. It's fantastic. And it's genius. Get the kids hooked on comics young.
And the storytelling they're doing right now, especially like stuff at Mad Cave, Dick Tracy, Gotchaman, Defenders of the Earth. Like I say, all that stuff is just top level stuff. Like, you can't go wrong with it. And like I say, you definitely want to make sure you're checking these books out. And especially, like they say, that's the first 3 panels of the day on Saturday. Like, now, like, here we go again, it feels like. And then we're going into another one, which, I mean, Lauren, this is one that you're kind of familiar with too. Star Wars and Lucas Publishing. This one's going to be focused more on the comic stuff, but I know that they have a panel for The Galaxy Long Far Away.
Yeah, I actually wish I could go to the comics one and the books one, because I love the Star Wars books and a lot of the comics. But yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, and I have other stuff that I'm attending. But I'll just have to wait and see. Well, that's one of the beauty of the fact that somebody's covering all these. I can watch their content and what they are, doing, whoever gets to go to that panel. But I mean, that's what made me truly fall in love with Star Wars, was all the extra material.
And especially, like, Michael, you've seen now with Marvel and Dark Horse. I know you're a huge Star Wars fan. Like, when you're seeing these panels now come up and just the story doesn't end with Skywalker, what's your reaction as a fan?
I get excited. I mean, Lauren said it. That's why I audibly said yes. I think a lot of the extra material is some of the best material, and I think fans are now realizing it years later. Heir to the Empire, and we had. I mean, there's so many Old Republic, and it's just it's great material, and some has been folded into canon. How many times can we say canon on one stream? That's an old inside joke. Canon was like the topic. What was it, like 5-6 years ago? Everyone was like, what's canon? What's canon?
I remember having to Google canon. I was like, what is everybody talking about?
So I love the Legends material and the extra material. I think it is some of the best freewheeling, and it's not. So it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. And then I'm still waiting for a Darth Revan show. If Disney Plus could put that together, that'd be great. But yeah, I'm excited for this stuff.
Yeah, they need to. I mean, there's so much untapped potential of the story that they can just really run with. And that's the great thing about the comics, especially the stuff they do with Dark Horse, which I know right now they're really pushing the High Republic stuff. And I mean, Marvel's now dabbling into a little bit more of that. I know this is going to be the Dark Horse stuff that's going to be kind of more featured on here. But still, it's something for the fans to get into, especially with Star Wars being such a big fandom, being one that's very vocal, and especially if you do something right, they're going to give it a lot of praise. And these books have been coming out, have definitely been winning a lot of fans over for that. Then next up is one of the biggest ones. Like we talked about how stacked this con was. This is one that's gained a lot more attention as of late, and that is Jim Lee and Friends, Saturday at 1:45. So there really isn't a lot going on with this as far as announcements of who's going to be there. But it's Jim Lee doing a solo panel with friends. And I know that there's a big rumor that's going around online. I don't want to speculate on it, what it is, but if that is the case, then this is going to be a panel I think everybody wants to be in the room for. So I'll just put it like that. I mean, Michael, I know you know Jim Lee's work. I mean, how would you describe him as an artist in case somebody for whatever reason doesn't know him?
Ooh, what did they call him in the 90s? He was like the prodigy of Marvel before he went over to Image. I mean, he was Marvel's golden boy. So I mean, he is, you know, X-Men. His art is just it's Lauren said this earlier. It's the true definition of art. It's stunning. And now obviously he's running DC, and so he is a legend in the definition of the word. So I mean, I want to know who these friends are. Better not be Ross and Rachel. I mean, I want to know who this is going to be, and it's exciting. It could be
That'd be pretty cool if it was Ross.
It could
and
be
Rachel.
exciting to see what announcements come from this. But yeah, anything he touches is gold at this point.
Yeah, Lauren, I mean, are you very familiar with Jim Lee's work?
I mean, I know the name 100%, and I just actually Googled Jim Lee art, and I was like, oh, I've seen that. Oh, I've seen that. Because again, it's like with music. I'm great with faces, and I'm great with hearing things and stuff. I'm terrible with names, and I'm getting better because of Nerd Initiative, because I'm writing out that creative team and remembering who's writing this and that. But Jim Lee is one of those I know the name, but yeah, I can't always pinpoint.
Yeah. I will just say this. If you being the big Wolverine fan, his Wolverine is iconic. And his X-Men run is that of legend, like him and Chris Claremont. And then even when he started the new run, before he went and did Wildcats over at Image, is just the stuff of legend. And then his Batman run, I mean, Hush, need I say more? And the cover, and the cover that I just featured, this is the one. This is a variant for Absolute Batman that he drew. So I'm just going to say this, like I say, definitely get familiar on this. I know I saw Janelle popped in the chat. She's going to make sure she's at this panel. I don't blame you either. This is one that definitely has been gaining a lot of steam. So I think this is one that if you are a fan of Jim Lee and DC, you definitely want to be in attendance for, because like I say,
that Absolute Batman cover does remind me of the second printing of his first Batman cover, you know, where he's on the gargoyle and chest is all puffed out, and we got the, you know, the matching Superman one, you know, looking right and one's looking left. And for Lauren, you would love this. You might have to pick this up. I think the most iconic Wolverine cover is what, X-Men 5 with the claws up. You've definitely seen the cover. It's 5's Omega Red. It's one of the early X-Men books, but it's a gorgeous cover with the 3 claws up, and it's a close up. It's beautiful. It's not the Romita Jr. one where he's slicing down the middle. That's another gorgeous cover.
That's an amazing one too.
His work is stunning, especially on Wolverine.
Well, I just searched Jim Lee art Wolverine. I'm like, oh, I have that shirt. So I definitely have.
You probably do it.
Not just in comic book
I mean,
form.
his stuff is, like I say, is just iconic. And like I say, him being at a panel, doing, you know, having friends there too. Listen, I can't say you have to make sure you're in attendance for it, but you kind of have to make sure you're in attendance for it. Next up, though, we want to talk about big things in comics. I don't think there's any other bigger universe right now than the Energon universe from Skybound Entertainment and Image Comics. And the image that you see on the screen right now is that of G.I. Joe #1, which will be dropping in November, from Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley. So they're going to be doing a panel with Robert Kirkman and Jorge Corona, talking everything Energon universe, Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I mean, Michael, when you're seeing this reboot of these classic teams that, you know, we've seen in Marvel Comics for years and then has transitioned on to different publishers, now seeing this resurgence, like, what is going through your mind about this?
We had so many years where these old IPs and these old, you know, Transformers in the movies with Michael Bay, like the original ones were good, and then slowly, but for a long time, IP was like overused, and it didn't come out. Like, I feel like now we're in the era where classic IP from like the 80s and 90s, they're doing great work. You know, Transformers, and then you got G.I. Joe. Like, this is like my childhood. This is just like, and they're doing it justice now. And for years, I don't think they did that. So it's really exciting to see.
Yeah. Lauren, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I think it's because, people like you who were a fan and fell in love with it in the 80s, we're now exposing our kids to it. And the people who loved it are creating it. So they're doing what I think the fans truly always wanted. I mean, I agree with the movies. The first couple Transformers, I was like, this is phenomenal. And then I didn't even finish the one with Mark Wahlberg. I'm not into G.I. Joe or Transformers or anything, but you just mentioned Robert Kirkman, and I didn't realize he was going to be there. And I absolutely love, Invincible is my all-time favorite comic. Obviously, I'm a Walking Dead fan. I really liked Oblivion's song. He loves happy endings, and I love happy endings. So I didn't realize he was going to be there.
He
So
writes
that's
Void
awesome.
Rivals, which was actually the catalyst for this whole universe because one page changed everything last summer. So in that one, they're now ramping up some elements to tie him a little more closer into the Energon universe. And I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that as we go on because, like I say, Void Rivals is just fantastic stuff. And like that whole line right now is absolutely crushing it. And Transformers might be the best book on the market right now, in my opinion. Like that's how much I will tell you. If you have not checked it out, go check it out. Daniel Warren Johnson's doing amazing things there. Speaking of some things amazing, this is one that definitely is going to have a lot of people talking because this is the Max Creature Commandos panel. So this is can we say it's the first official thing from the James Gunn DC universe? Because this is the animated show that's going to be coming out on Max that definitely has got a lot of people talking. So I would expect we're going to hear a lot of buzz about this show because obviously next year is going to be all about Superman, and this is the first real project that's kind of under the James Gunn banner. So, Michael, what's your thoughts on this?
I kept seeing names pop up, and I'm excited to see Frank Grillo back into this genre. We know him from, obviously we know him as Crossbones from the Marvel Universe. Alan Tudyk. We have David Harbour. I mean, man, Steve Agee, who's going to continue to play his role from Peacemaker, which is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah,
it's a great show. So it's just great lineup, and I think this feels like right in James Gunn's like wheelhouse, like fun. It almost feels like a Guardians for DC. So I'm excited for this. Really excited for this.
Yeah, Lauren, how about you?
Usually I'm tentative when new DC stuff comes out. Like, well, let's wait and see. But it's James Gunn, and what he did with Guardians was phenomenal. Rocket Raccoon is a household name now. Nobody saw that coming. So I am excited for it, and I agree. Peacemaker, I think, has been my favorite thing that DC has done. So if he's gonna, I just wish they would be more clear as far as what's canon. I'm gonna use that word, but part of Peacemaker canon, part of it's not canon. This is canon, that's not canon, but we're going to use this, we're not going to use that. So I feel like once we start hashing out what is part of this, specifically part of this James Gunn universe, I think that will make things better. But I do think that he has the potential, the know-all, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. He has the potential to do it. And if anybody's going to do it, I think James Gunn will do it. I'm not happy about Henry Cavill not being there, but
yeah, I was going to say
he's Wolverine now.
He's the Calverine. He's the full package.
Well, I know James Gunn will be there along with the cast, and I'm sure they're going to give a lot of stuff to the fans there, and I'm sure that's going to be a very, very lively panel. I'm excited. I'm going to be there for it. So definitely really amped up to hear about what he's got planned out because everything he announced already for the DC, I want to say reboot of the, live action animation has been on point. So I'm really amped up to hear about what else he's going to possibly reveal. And I mean, I don't know. We had a Superman teaser get released, so who knows? Just throwing that out there. I mean, we saw Crypto and Superman hanging out, so anything is possible. Yeah. And then closing out Tuesday or Saturday night. Geez, I want to say Tuesday night, but that's where we are. Distillery is coming with one of their two panels, surviving the most sinister sci-fi dystopias. And they have been doing some great stuff. If you haven't checked out Distillery is more of like that Vertigo feel of the 90s. It's more mature storytelling from some of the top level creators. And they have just like a who's who of talent there. Brian Azzarello, Stephanie Phillips, Scott Snyder, Chip Zdarsky. And they're going to be breaking down a lot of the stuff that they've been doing, like Life. I know Chip just had Time Waits come out. Scott has another panel that's coming out, and I'll kind of jump the gun for Saturday or Sunday morning with him and Jock. You Won't Feel a Thing, and that is the future of horror comics. So Distillery is doing some big things. If you're not familiar with them, you definitely want to. Michael, were you always a big like Vertigo fan?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It's different. I don't think I was consistent, but I like to it's a nice little palate cleanser.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to describe it too. And especially Distillery, like I say, they just remind me of that so much. I mean, they're doing their own thing, but just the storytelling that they're allowed to do. And you're seeing a lot of these creators really go places with stuff. Like Life is an amazing book. And then with Time Waits, and then you had, I mean, Gone come out, The Devil's Cut last year. I mean, like they just had so many great books that have now spiraled into different stuff. I mean, they're just doing top level things. I mean, Lauren, are you a big fan of like the adult line-esque of, when you see creators doing stuff like this, like Christian Ward was doing on Spectrograph with James Tynion?
That's what I was gonna say. That's where my head went with Spectrograph. Yeah, I'm absolutely loving that. Again, it's the more I'm enjoying the horror, the more I want more of the horror kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Like I say, that's a perfect way to cap off Saturday. And then going this Sunday, Sunday's kind of a smaller day. It's a half day compared to the other ones. Family Day at New York Comic Con. So there's only a couple panels that were really jumping out to me here. And we had the showdown. Like I said, Distillery's doing one at 11 a.m., but Image Comics is coming at 11 a.m. the same time with Presents Breaking Ground. And this was out via a press release, and it's the Lucky Devils. And I don't know if you can see the names of who's behind this, but it's Charles Soule and Ryan Brown re-teaming up after they were on 8 Billion Genies.
I mean, it looks the cover, the style. If you're an 8 Billion Genies fan, you know that style.
Yeah.
When Ryan Brown's been doing Barfly, which has been phenomenal art and so detailed and so hilarious.
Yeah, everything they're doing at Minor Threats for Dark Horse is absolutely insane. And
I know, I wish they were going to be there.
Yeah, same here. So, but still, the fact that we got Charles Soule and Ryan Brown re-teaming up at Image, and they're announcing a lot of new books coming out too. So, I mean, it's kind of hush-hush about what's coming out, but I know that this is going to be one for Image, and especially right now in the renaissance they've been having with like Black Cloak, Local Man, Falling in Love on the Pathway to Hell, like that, like they've been doing like some really fantastic stuff with regular series and just running places with it. I imagine this is gonna be just the next wave of that going on. And like I say, going head to head with Distillery, that's a tough call in the morning too for Sunday, but they definitely are loading that up. And then Marvel is actually dropping 2 panels on us as well, and it's the Women of Marvel panel. So that is always an amazing one to see. And going by the press release from Women of Marvel panel, returns to New York Comic Con. Talent from across the Marvel universe assembles to talk about breaking in as a creative, building a career in nerd space, and how fandom has changed, and being part of Marvel's 85-year legacy while teasing what's next, and including a behind-the-scenes look at the women-led X title starring Marvel's Mightiest Mutants. And that's why I threw the 2 up here right now, because I know the new Psylocke series is coming out, and then Gail Simone writing Uncanny X-Men has just been... It's probably Marvel's best book right now, hands down. And that is up there with Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm just going to put that out there. Like that's the pedestal I put it out with. And then last but not least is they're doing Marvel Comics Spider-Man and his venomous friends. And I had to throw the Scotty Young cover up here, because going by the press release as well, webheads gathered to discover what's on the horizon for Spider-Man, Venom, and the entire Spider-Verse. Because this November, Dr. Doom will grant Peter Parker 8 extra lives to face an evil god, but will they be enough? And then also we'll learn about the finale and the aftermath of the symbiotic saga, Venom War, and the new ongoing series spinning out of it. So Nick Lowe, Jordan White, Joe Kelly are going to be there. And that is literally going to be a must read or must watch, attend, however you want to process it, for all Marvel fans. So I know I kind of sped up through that, but I mean, that's just a lot to process going into Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Michael, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on just those 2 days and overall.
Oh man, that Scotty Young cover. My son's room is all Scotty. I mean, I got no words. I've never seen that cover before. I just the Doc Ock with the paper. I mean, come on. He's got on his wall this Todd McFarlane little spider he drew, and he's got I had this guy Chris Umingo who reminds me of Scotty Young a lot of really adorable like art, and he did like a Venom spray painting like bug spray on the little spider. Like I just love that kind of stuff. So that's exciting, and I think just it's apropos for Family Day, right? Like I'm sure Lauren would love to bring her kids to that kind of panel, and and I know Scotty Young is just one of those guys that. He's just a huge fan of the genre, but also his fans, especially his young fans. So I love seeing stuff like that. I mean, that's a great way to wrap up the weekend.
Yeah. Lauren, how about you?
It's a lot. Unfortunately, I won't be there Sunday, but I feel like I don't know that I'll be able to do full 4 days because because MegaCon, like Thursday's a half day and Sunday's like a half day. And even then by Sunday, I'm dragging. So it's a lot. Again, very excited. Michael summed it up well, very overwhelming, but it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I can't wait to learn what we're going to know next week, like all the things that are going to come out. So I'm very excited to see all that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think this is one of the most stacked lineups they've had in recent memory. Just like, especially like how they're pairing everybody off against each other, which, I mean, that's just, it goes to show just how much parity there is amongst the companies now. Like your fandoms, I mean, everybody's really raising, is raising the bar for everybody. And we're getting so much quality work. It's just no matter where you go, there's going to be something for everybody. And honestly, like starting Thursday morning, like that just still blows my mind. And then even Sunday morning, we're having this heavyweight bout between Image and Distillery. And it's just like to see this, and then Marvel's closing down the shop too. Like this is going to be just an intense weekend just for fans, just to really enjoy and do their thing and just really celebrate being the fandoms. Like I said, we didn't even get into like the TV stuff and the toy stuff. Luckily, we've had Mickey, who did Play for Keeps this past Friday, breaking down what toy and collectibles we should be watching now for New York. And then our very own Tom is going to be dropping the TV aspect of things on a special edition of TV Talk dropping tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube for Wednesday. That covers literally everything for New York Comic Con. So before we get out of here, for each of you, one, what is one tip you want to give everybody that's going to the con? And two, let everybody know what you got going on outside of Turn a Page. Starting with you, Lauren.
Deodorant is a must. Absolutely. Please wear deodorant. Put mini deodorants in your pockets. I don't understand. I smell more BO at cons than I do at Disney World in July. I don't understand why. But in all seriousness, comfy shoes, you're going to be walking a lot more than you realize. So that would be one of my big tips. And also like stop and look around and enjoy, because even if you make it to half the panels you think you're going to, honestly, my favorite part is watching people cosplay, watching strangers get so excited to meet each other and see each other's costumes, and just the camaraderie alone. It's like if everybody, I always say it goes for like on the boat too. If everybody treated each other in real life like boaters treat each other, or like people at cons treat each other, this world would be such an amazing place. And just enjoy it. Stop and smell the roses, so to speak, but not the BO, because everyone's going to have deodorant on. As far as what I have going on, Matt and I are still going strong on Halloween. We dropped a George Romero episode last week. We've been doing Nightmare on Elm Street. We've been having a lot of fun with all our spooky stuff. We did another episode on cryptids. That was something in our Discord. Everybody wants to know more about cryptids. Next week, we'll be doing Carrie. And of course, we'll be doing a lot of New York Comic Con stuff. So I'll be posting a ton of stuff on our Hops Geek News social media, as well as on Nerd Initiative. So just follow all of us to get all of the New York Comic Con content.
All right. Excellent. Michael, how about you?
Well, first, I got an amazing answer to Untouchable's question. My superpower for Comic-Con would be to stop time, so I could go to everything. Done and done. There you go. Advice. Wow. Lauren really covered a lot of great things. I really harp on two things. One, over plan, but like by over planning, I mean under planning, right? Like pick out like 2 or 3 things you want to do, especially, we didn't go heavy into like the names that are going to be there, like Elizabeth Olsen signing, Josh Brolin. Like if you're going to do one of those, don't plan a lot around it, because it's going to take up a lot of time. So like I said, under plan, but over plan, if that makes sense. The other thing I would say is, I think the highlights of these for me every year are the relationships you make and build and foster. There's always those one-offs, like the Elizabeth Olsens or, Sebastian Stan or the names go on, Chris Evans, you'll go and get an autograph or see him or whatever. I think that's what makes Artist Alley so special is meeting people over and over again and getting to know them, and building relationships and talking about what they're doing. That you always walk away kind of being like, wow, like these conversations are great. And they're really open to chatting with you, talking about their history and their legacy and what they've done. And I think those are always the highlights for me, is just kind of walking away from like a half-hour conversation with like an icon of comics or something and being like, that was amazing. So if you can, like Lauren said, take it in, enjoy it. And if you can, don't feel rushed to go to a million different things. If you're having a great conversation or you're talking to someone you're a fan of, just keep it going, and just enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Superpower time travel, because I need to like slow time down as well, because it's just flying by way too fast, especially this weekend is going to. So very quickly for me, odphpodcast.com. You love the QR codes here at Nerd Initiative. Bam, there you go. If you want to find out what's going on, me and the team, new episodes dropping left and right, but also have to plug the hardest working team in all comic reviews starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow for New Comic Book Day, and that is the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. Nobody does New Comic Book Day like the Bullpen. I think over 35 reviews are dropping tomorrow. So I have to do the count, but that's just now become the norm. And that's just how much we are dedicated as fans to giving you the picks of the picks that you need to make sure you have in your collections. And it is a stacked New Comic Book Day tomorrow, leading into New York Comic Con, where you want to make sure that you are following Nerd Initiative on the YouTube channel. You definitely want to make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification, and always make sure that you're giving the thumbs up to let Michael know that you love what you're seeing here at Nerd Initiative and you want to see more of it. See, that's what we do here. We want to make sure we're as interactive with everybody as the fandoms keep growing from 2024 and beyond. And then last but not least, make sure it's bookmarked in your favorite web browser, nerdinitiative.com, where articles are dropping left and right. There's new videos dropping left and right. You want to make sure that you're up to date on the home of pop culture positivity. So that said, thank you, everybody, for checking out this very special edition of Turn a Page. And I almost forgot to say, my recommendation is if you're going to New York Comic Con, make sure to have fun, be courteous to everybody, and especially go down to Artist Alley and go meet some independent creators. They're the ones that are going to be the next big things in years to come. And you can definitely meet and talk and interact and build those relationships, because you never know when that writer that you talked to that you didn't think that book was going to be anything is now going to be the next big thing at Marvel and DC and beyond. Trust me, it's happened and it's going to happen again. So that being said, when you're at New York Comic Con and you have a great book in your hand from fantastic creators left and right, no matter who they are, make sure you hand yours off to somebody else if they're struggling. Tell them to turn a page. Enjoy New York Comic Con. We'll see you next week.